LSU gets their quarterback, but how close was Tennessee to stealing Sam Leavitt? Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use our code Locked On College, and get $20 off your first purchase. Locked On College at Game Time. All right, we got plenty to get into. We got the latest on all the SEC players moving around in the portal. We got players leaving the SEC. We got players going to other SEC schools. We got guys announcing they're coming back. We'll get you caught up on all the latest news the last 24 hours or so around the Southeastern Conference. But we got to start with the biggest news. The #1 player in the portal, according to 24/7 Sports, that is Sam Leavitt, the Arizona State quarterback, chose LSU. Now, this news came out Monday morning that Sam Leavitt was picking LSU after trips to Kentucky, Tennessee, Miami, of course. He led Arizona State to the college football playoff with Cam Scatabo back in 2024. 4,600 career passing yards, 36 touchdowns, and it was announced he has committed to LSU. Now, as we know, when you make a commitment, just like in National Signing Day in recruiting, like until the pen hits the paper, it's not fully locked in. So we spent much of Monday, okay, he's committed to LSU. Everybody, all the big outlets are going, yeah, he's going to LSU, he's going to LSU, he's picked LSU, blah, blah, blah. Well, there was a report on by Tennessee on Tennessee, Matt Zenitz, 24 CBS Sports, putting out there on Monday afternoon. Tennessee football not backing down when it was announced that Sam Leavitt planned to sign with LSU. Monday afternoon, Matt Zenitz reporting the Vols were still pushing in hopes of remaining in consideration before the pen hit paper. The Vols assembled one final offer with dialogue between Tennessee and Sam Leavitt's camp carrying into Monday afternoon. On 3 Sports reporting, Tennessee and Sam Leavitt's camp were in regular contact throughout Monday, and the Vols were never told he was going to LSU. So it's one of these things like, so Sam Leavitt told LSU he was going, apparently, right? Like everybody's running with that report. But Tennessee's going, he never told us he's going to LSU. So they kept putting out, offers. And look, there was mutual interest there between both parties. We know Sam Leavitt went to Knoxville for a visit. It ended up being a multi-day visit, stayed an extra day. VolQuest reported that he watched film with Joey Halzle and Josh Heupel to get a feel for the offense. It was cited Tennessee made some subtle tweaks to their offensive passing attack this past year that made, saw great results. Joey Aguilar put up massive numbers in an offense. And Leavitt and his parents reportedly had dinner at Josh Heupel's house Thursday night, and a very laid-back dinner, laid-back environment. They had breakfast with Joey Halzle and more at the football complex the next morning, and everything went very well. But we do know that Friday, as he was getting ready to go take his visit to Miami, boarding the plane at the Knoxville airport, here comes Lane Kiffin with a counteroffer, you would assume, from LSU, saying, hey, we need you, my guy. And so on Monday evening, Matt Zenitz reporting that it was trending toward Leavitt sticking to the pledge with LSU and heading to LSU, and that the one last counteroffer by Tennessee, not enough. But, of course, Leavitt checks in as the #1 overall player in the NCAA transfer portal, and LSU lands their guy. And, look, honestly, when you look at the transfer portal rankings and the quarterbacks, and it doesn't mean you got to get, one of the top 20 quarterbacks out there, because look at what Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weis Jr. did. Trinidad Chambliss ended up being a guy at Ole Miss, and look at how good he became. But it does help to have a guy that is very highly thought of, and, you look at Kiffin and Weiss's track record of working with quarterbacks. They've had great success. Of course, you go back to Matt Corral in the early days at Ole Miss, Jackson Dart becoming a first-round pick in recent years at Ole Miss, and then starting with Austin Simmons, but then pivoting to Trinidad Chambliss in the season he had this year. So they got a great track record, and now the coveted quarterback Sam Leavitt is headed to LSU. That's not all. LSU did make a couple more additions on Monday. They picked up Troy transfer wide receiver Roman Mothershed. He's 6'5", 207 pounds, had 25 catches for 259 yards and a touchdown this year. He'll have 3 years of eligibility remaining. Also, Sunday evening, they picked up a transfer from Winston Watkins, receiver who was a true freshman at Ole Miss last year. 26 catches, almost 400 yards, and a touchdown. He appeared on radio with our guy Matt Moscona of Locked on LSU yesterday, saying he never considered staying at Ole Miss, said he wanted to follow Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weis to Baton Rouge, and said the LSU facilities was what attracted him to LSU. So certainly, look, that Ole Miss-LSU rivalry is going to be it's going to amp up big time this year, but Winston Watkins going from Ole Miss gear a week ago to now wearing LSU gear will be fun to watch how he does this year at LSU. Also, one more move for LSU. They picked up Kentucky transfer O-lineman Darren Stray, was a 4-star recruit in 2025, 6'6", 300-pounder. They projected as a starting right tackle in the future in the SEC, compared him to Landon Young, and his connection with Eric Walford, bringing him to LSU, obviously, who coached him there in Kentucky last year. How about over at Alabama as they pick up NC State transfer wide receiver Noah Rogers. He signed with Alabama, began his career at Ohio State. Rogers in the Alabama offense will be joined alongside Ryan Williams and Lottie Brooks. That is a pretty good pairing. In his 2 years at NC State, Noah Rogers totaling 68 catches for 919 yards and 3 touchdowns. Add some depth. He can play both inside and outside a wide receiver, but some people looking at it saying, you know what, Noah Rogers, that's a good wide receiver 3 there behind Ryan Williams and Lottie Brooks. So a good piece there for Kalen DeBoer and company. And then how about adding on the offensive line? Michigan transfer offensive tackle Ty Haywood committing to Alabama, one of the top offensive linemen in the 2025 class, 6'5", 316 pounds. Played in 3 games at Michigan last season, only about 15 snaps as a first-year player, all at the right tackle spots. Will he just slide right in at right tackle for Alabama, compete for that job? We'll see. But Ty Haywood, big-time O-lineman. He's the second O-lineman to choose the Tide from Michigan. In fact, the second Michigan O-lineman transfer commit to Alabama, joining interior O-lineman Caden Strayhorn. So Ty Haywood, big get there for Alabama. Speaking of big-time O-linemen, how about Kentucky picking up Ohio State transfer Tigra Shabola, Tshabola. He was a 2-year starter for the Buckeyes, started 29 games, helped them win the national championship back in 2024. He was named to the All-Big Ten third team by the media, was an honorable mention by the coaches in 2025, 6'6", 322 pounds, will have 1 season of eligibility remaining, ranked as the number 91 overall player in the transfer portal by 24/7 Sports. He allowed just 12 pressures and 1 sack last season, finished with a PFF grade of 56.3. So a nice addition there for Will Stein, who continues to crush the transfer portal over there at Kentucky. How about a Kentucky guy leaving, going to Georgia? Kentucky running back transfer Dante Dowdell leaving Kentucky to head to Georgia, rushed for 560 yards and 3 touchdowns this season. Started his career at Oregon and then transferred to Nebraska the following season. Ended up in Lexington the next year. We'll touch on some of the other Georgia running back news in just a bit. How about Tulane standout edge rusher Jordan Norman? He committed to Tennessee, experienced a breakout year this past year with career highs of 28 tackles, 8 tackles for a loss, and 6 sacks. He's 6'4", 250 pounds, and nice season for was at South Alabama in 2024, and then, of course, went to Tulane and will join a Tennessee transfer portal class that consists of 11 commits so far, and some big-time D-line pieces. When you talk about Chaz Coleman and Xavier Gilliam on that defensive line, now add Jordan Norman coming off the edge there for the Tennessee Vols. Big get there. How about Florida State cornerback Shamar Arno going to Auburn? He was a previous commit to Auburn, flipped to Florida State on signing day a year ago. Was a 24, according to 24/7 Sports, was a 3-star prospect, number 76 player coming out of the state of Georgia when he was in high school. Finished his 1 season with the Seminoles with 27 tackles, 1 pass deflection in 11 games played. So another piece added to the secondary for Auburn. How about Florida? They add to their secondary with Kanye Clark, UCLA defensive back, 6 foot tall, 190 pounds, had 23 tackles, 2 pass breakups, and a forced fumble this season. Appeared in 16 games total for UCLA, making 2 starts in his career. And man, saved the best for last. Season finale against USC had a team high 7 tackles. So Kanye Clark going to be in that secondary there for John Summerall at Florida. How about A&M? They keep adding to the trenches. They go to North Carolina and add starting defensive tackle C.J. Mims, who had 42 tackles and 2 sacks this season. 6'2", 300-pound junior. Transferred to UNC after spending 3 seasons at East Carolina, and he joins the D-line portal mix at A&M of Angelo McCollum, Ryan Henderson, and Brandon Davis-Swain, and now C.J. Mims. So they're trying to find lightning in a bottle there. Add to the depth and the beefiness on that defensive line, Mike Elko and bunch. A few other portal names to keep an eye on. Alabama transfer wide receiver Isaiah Horton has committed to Texas A&M. We talked about that a few days ago, that it was trending that way. He's now officially signed with A&M. So opposite Mario Craver, a nice piece with Casey Concepcion moving on to the NFL. Isaiah Horton from Alabama over to Texas A&M. How about Old Dominion transfer wide receiver Ja'Cory Thomas? He committed to Vanderbilt, over 700 yards and 5 touchdowns last season at Old Dominion. LSU safety Jordan Gilbert has signed with Mississippi State. If you remember, he spent his first 3 seasons at Texas A&M, spent the last 2 seasons at LSU, was relegated to a reserve role last year with LSU. Oklahoma DB Kendall Dolby, he committed to Mississippi State as well, played in 3 games this year for Oklahoma in his career there at OU, had 68 tackles and 2 interceptions in his career. Mississippi State also set to sign LSU offensive lineman DJ Chester, made 14 career starts at LSU. And Mississippi State also signing Oklahoma offensive line transfer Isaiah Autry-Dent, 6'6", 320-pounder, left 3 years of eligibility remaining. LSU transfer running back JT Lindsey signed with Ole Miss. He was a class of 2025 4-star. Kentucky wide receiver Cameron Miller committed to Ole Miss, 5'11", had 13 catches for 140 yards. And then Arkansas landed a commitment from LSU wide receiver transfer Jelani Watkins. He will play both football and track, was a member of the 2024 class for LSU. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we'll get to a couple players who are returning next year. That's coming your way here in just a sec. Hey guys, the new year is here and is the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and how it feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. From bedding and mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy to start your year fresh. Wayfair has everything you need for a full home refresh, all in one place. Whether you're updating your living room, organizing your space, upgrading your work from home setup, Wayfair's huge selection is going to make it easy to find exactly what works for your style and for your budget. You're going to love you can find pieces that match your style without spending a fortune. Shopping is easy, delivery is smooth, and everything arrives exactly as you expect. And it honestly makes getting back into a routine this new year feel a lot more manageable. Go get organized, refreshed, and back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now. Shop all things for your home. It's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Hey, thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. And hey, you already live your team every day. Now you can take it up a level and go ad-free. Join our Everydayer Club today and get Locked On SEC with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 for a full year. Go to lockedonsec.supercast.com, or you check the link in our show notes to learn more. We're just talking to folks in our Discord channel earlier today about some of the latest portal entries, so you can do that. Join us, lockedonsec.supercast.com. All right, we talked about a lot of the players making moves in the SEC portal. How about some players that are coming back? Let's start at the University of Georgia, as Georgia star tailback Nate Frazier has agreed to a deal to return to the school for 2026, according to his agent. Nate Frazier led the Bulldogs in rushing with over 900 yards this season, was named all SEC third team by the SEC coaches this year. So big get there. We chatted with him at Media Day for the Sugar Bowl and really enjoyed chatting with Nate Frazier, good kid, and wishing him the best of luck, hoping he can keep up that success at Georgia. Also re-upping at Georgia running back Chauncey Bowens announced that he is returning. Guy who redshirted in 2024, was a redshirt freshman this past season, and saw his role increase. He had over 100 carries for 526 yards, 6 rushing touchdowns. Had that huge game in that regular season matchup against Alabama, if you remember, had 119 yards and a touchdown in that game. But good for Georgia now. We told you about Dante Dowdle going from Kentucky over to Georgia. That's some big backs they've got with Nate Frazier back in the fold, Chauncey Bowens back in the fold, now Dante Dowdle. And look, there were some Georgia fans who were wondering the last few days. There's been some rumblings on the internet that, hey, Nate Frazier might be entering the portal. Chauncey Bowens might be leaving. They might be, seeing what they can get elsewhere and all this. So good to see that both those guys are going to be back and they add to that running back room. How about LSU standout running back Caden Durham withdrawing his name from the transfer portal and will return to the Tigers? Durham posted over 1,600 scrimmage yards the last 2 seasons at LSU. It's big for LSU, right? Because all the rumblings when Lane Kiffin first came over was that Kewan Lacey, he was going to come over to LSU. Well, Ole Miss did a good job of getting ahead of that, having the great run, the great success they were having. They got an NIL deal in front of him, talked him into staying. And for LSU, they were left kind of like, oh, okay, well, if Lacey's not coming, we got to figure out a plan here. Well, they re-signed Harlan Berry, the freshman running back from last year, but trying to figure out who was going to be the number 2 guy. Caden Durham going, well, I might have a better opportunity elsewhere if Kewan Lacey's coming. Well, Lacey doesn't come. So Caden Durham says, you know what, maybe it is best to stay here. Met with the coaches. They had a discussion. I'm sure took care of them with NIL. Caden Durham will stick around at LSU. We had him on about a year ago right here on Locked On SEC, and he had just gotten a new tattoo on his arm. It's an LSU tattoo with a big tiger, and it's like, man, you get that tattoo, it's hard to go enter the portal and go play somewhere else. So good to hear Caden Durham staying put, and wish him the best of luck staying there at LSU. And he and Harlan Berry, maybe with a better offensive line, getting to know Kevin Smith, the running backs coach, who look at the great success Ole Miss had running the football with Kevin Smith and Lane Kiffin there at Ole Miss. Been a top 5 rushing team in the SEC basically every year. Let's see if they can translate that and bring that to LSU, who was not good at running the football in 2025. How about Texas A&M? Offensive lineman Mark Nabu Jr. re-signing with the Aggies. According to reports, his deal is set to be worth in the range of $1.2 million. That makes him one of the highest paid centers in the country. Brings a lot of value as a multi-year starter for the Aggies. Has versatility. Can also play guard as well as center, but big time get there for the Aggies in bringing Mark Nabu back at center. And like we said, makes him the highest, if not the highest paid center in all of college football heading into next year. All right, how about some SEC guys going elsewhere? How about Auburn wide receiver Malcolm Simmons? He committed to Texas Tech yesterday, the number 10 wide receiver in the On3 portal rankings. Will have 2 years of eligibility remaining. Kind of funny how this worked out, right? Because Texas Tech, they were all in and trying to get Cam Coleman. Cam Coleman ends up going to Texas. They go, all right, well, who's Cam Coleman's teammate? Malcolm Simmons. Maybe let's take him. So they go get Brendan Sorsby a weapon now to have a Texas Tech, and getting Malcolm Simmons from Auburn, and a productive guy. He was very productive at Auburn, but Malcolm Simmons now going to Texas Tech. How about Alabama? Big loss, losing a D lineman James Smith and linebacker Quay Russaw going to Ohio State. This came out last night, but 2 big-time players, particularly Russaw, a tackling machine for Alabama when he was healthy, and going elsewhere. Obviously getting a payday from Ohio State to go up there, both those guys. Alabama edge Keon Keeley committed to Notre Dame. Alabama wide receiver Jalen Hale committed to SMU. How about Georgia? Their offensive tackle Bo Hewley committed to Colorado. He'll have 2 years of eligibility remaining there. Florida freshman kicker Evan Noel headed to Houston. He was rated the number 1 kicking prospect coming out of high school last year, so he'll be a Houston Cougar. UCF signed Arkansas D lineman Ken Talley. Tennessee D lineman Josh Shell signed with UCF. Georgia safety Adrian Maddox is headed to Kansas State. Texas O lineman Daniel Cruz heading to NC State. And then Kentucky transfer wide receiver Hardley Gilmore announced a few days ago he was going to Louisville. Now he'll be going to Baylor. So I think as Matt Jones said, they hardly knew him at Louisville. Hardley Gilmore heading to be a Baylor Bear. All right, still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Hey, there's nothing like the college football season, from the tailgates, the packed stadiums, being right there in the middle of it, all the energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever, but actually getting tickets for the games. That part used to be frustrating with the long lines, logins, and prices jumping at checkout. That's why our friends at Game Time give the advantage back to fans. It is the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. You're going to love when you open the Game Time app, you look at any upcoming college football game you want. Obviously, we only got the national championship left, but you're going to be surprised how easy it is to find great seats for that game you're looking for. The app is incredibly easy to use. You go from browsing to buying tickets in just minutes. You're going to love it. You're going to be able to see your view from the seat before you buy, so you know exactly what you're getting. And look, they got tickets starting as low as $25 sometimes. Makes planning a game day trip easy. They even have college basketball games up there as well. Know the prices include all fees up front. That makes the whole process stress-free. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONCollege, get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today with Game Time. All right, rolling along here, Locked On SEC. A few more things we want to jump to before we get out of here. How about some new portal entries? And this isn't a big surprise, but we know Ole Miss, right? Their season ended last Thursday. Friday, they're traveling back, getting back into Oxford, cleaning out lockers, doing whatever they got to do. We get into the weekend, and then we start to see some Ole Miss guys start to enter the portal. We had 3 more enter the portal on Monday. First, Ole Miss true freshman O-lineman Devin Harper entered the portal. He's 6'4", 315 pounds, was rated a top 85 recruit in the class of 2025. So see where he ends up. How about Ole Miss D lineman Jeffrey Rush? He entered the portal, was a 2024 4-star recruit, and then safety TJ Banks, all entering the portal. So, maybe Lane Kiffin reaches out. We've seen a lot of, this trend with a lot of guys leaving their former school, following their former head coach to their new spot. We'll see if any of those guys end up over at LSU. How about at Texas? Cornerback Warren Robertson entered the transfer portal. 5'10", 188 pounds, played in 25 games, had 25 tackles, had 2 passes defense. Will have 2 years of eligibility remaining. That's a guy who played a lot for Texas. But out of this trend, look, they make a change of defensive coordinator, Will Muschamp coming in. Ask a Texas fan. They'll tell you, I'm fine losing some of those guys in the secondary because it was not good this year. They got beat a lot over the top. So I think most Texas fans would say, sign me up for some changes there in the secondary. And then lastly, LSU true freshman 4-star DB Jacob Bradford hitting the portal. How about some visits? So we know that Mizzou transfer edge Damon Wilson, considered one of the top players still in the portal. He's that guy that, left Georgia, went to Mizzou, apparently had already agreed to return to Georgia. So there was conflict there, it was a lawsuit and all this stuff pending. So anyway, all that's still to be determined. But that said, he still is one of the top players that wants to enter the portal or wants to transfer elsewhere. Well, he made a visit to LSU over the weekend, and now we hit a 3-day dead period for visits with the coaches conference going on. So the current plan, at least on 3, is for him to take more visits. And the 3 programs that have emerged as schools to watch for Damon Wilson are Miami, Texas Tech, and Alabama. And the Crimson Tide are reportedly pushing hard to enter the mix to land the portal's top pass rusher, according to On3. So watch for Alabama. We've been saying about Alabama for a couple of years now is, where's that Will Anderson Jr.? Where's that Dallas Turner, that stud edge rusher? They've been missing that the last few years at Alabama. Damon Wilson would be a huge impact player. We'll see if Alabama can land him, but as we know, Texas Tech's got a lot of money, and Miami's going to be looking for a lot of money. They're playing for a national championship. They're going to be, looking for some big-time pieces to add to that defense as well. How about going pro? Georgia left tackle Monroe Freeling is leaving school early to declare for the NFL draft, according to reports. We heard that yesterday. Here in second-team All-SEC honors this year for the Georgia Bulldogs. So Monroe Freeling, that will open up a spot there in that offensive line at left tackle for the Georgia Bulldogs. Rumors. Latest rumor on DJ Lagway is it continues to trend toward him sticking with his commitment to Baylor. He did make that visit to Ole Miss over the weekend, but they end up landing Deuce Knight from Auburn. So DJ Lagway still looking like he'll end up at Baylor despite the visit to Ole Miss. We'll talk a little bit more on the Ole Miss quarterback situation in a second. Oklahoma D lineman PJ Atabawori, I guess how you say it, entered the portal on Monday morning for roughly 2 minutes and then withdrew his name. He's a former 5-star recruit, had 17 tackles this season for Oklahoma. Again, the portal, it's crazy. I mean, the guys, did he get an offer and was it a typo? He had put his name in there and then, I didn't want to do that. Whatever the case is, sounds like he's going to stick around there at Oklahoma. Quick coaching news. Missouri is set to hire Alex Atkins as their next tight ends coach. Atkins is a veteran coach who spent last year as an analyst at LSU, but then was moved up to interim OC after Joe Sloan and Brian Kelly got fired. So he spent the prior 5 years at Florida State, including 3 years as offensive coordinator and 2 as O-line coach. So Alex Atkins getting some joining a good staff there. Eli Drinkwitz. I mean, think of the guys he's got on that staff now with Chip Lindsey at OC, and then you bring over Garrett Riley, who's going to be an assistant, offensive assistant. Now you had Alex Atkins as a tight ends coach. This is some good offensive minds, good minds to mix in those coaching rooms with a lot of offensive experience. And lastly, ESPN's got a story on the planned legal fight in Mississippi State Court over Trinidad Chambliss's eligibility. Attorney Tom Mars and William Liston plan to file suit against the NCAA in Mississippi this week. Liston is also the founder of the Ole Miss Grove Collective. So, look, it's funny. A lot of Ole Miss fans are going, we'd love to run it back with Trinidad Chambliss. Look at this run we just had. If we can find a way to get that extra year of eligibility, we would love that. A lot of other SEC fans, though, I've seen on social media the last day or so going, dude, give it a rest. Go pro. You just had this great run in the postseason. Go take your talents elsewhere. Like, why are you going to sit around trying to get that extra year? Well, reality is he's going to make a pretty penny in NIL with Ole Miss and advertising opportunities and all that if he gets another year of college football. So a few people saying they don't think it's going to happen. I did see that Kirk Herbstreit said yesterday he thinks that Trinidad Chambliss has a good case to get that extra year. So will be fascinating to track that. Hey, thank you guys for tuning in to today's Locked On SEC. Make sure you subscribe and follow so you get all the latest episodes. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On SEC ad-free, plus our members-only Discord access and more. All you got to do is check out the link in our show notes or head to lockedonsec.supercast.com. For those of you on video, we send you the first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you check out your second listen, Locked On College Football. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC.